Okay, so now you know how to place a variable. So let's see. Not only can you can overwrite variables, you can convert a value to another. You can convert a string to an integer, a string to a double, or the other way around, an integer to a string. So let's say I have cake is equal to 99.6. Okay, now I have a value. I have something called value is equal to 6,000. All right. If I do this, cake plus value, it's actually going to be really horrible. It's going to be 99.6, 6,000, which kind of sucks. That's not what I wanted. So what you can do is you got to convert this guy from a string to a floating point. To do so, you do the casting operation. Let's give it a variable, so q, and then it's going to be value plus float, open and close parentheses, and cake. So it's going to give you the numerical, the floating equivalent to 99.6. Okay, but what if you do want 99.6? Well, you just leave it like this. Or if you want to add more work, you just do this. Value plus cake, str value. So that's going to give you 99 points, actually 6,099.6. Right? Okay, so now you know how to do a single placeholder. What if you need to hold multiple numbers? You need to hold multiple strings or multiple doubles. An easy way of doing it is doing A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C equals 3, A is equal to 900, etc., etc. But that alone is going to give you like 1,000 pages. You don't want that. So what you guys can do is you can make an array. Now in Perl it's called an array. In Python we call it a list. And a list is usually initialized as open and close brackets. Okay. Oh, we have a list is part of it's a container. We have in Python we have 3 different containers. This is a list. If you put parentheses, it's a tuple, and if you put curly braces, it's a dictionary. In Perl, it's called an array. I think this one, yeah, tuple and a hash. But it actually uses a completely different format. And you'll see later on when Eric shows you how Perl works. Let's see. So I want to store 1 through 100 in my list. All right. So one way of doing it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you're gonna break your computer and say, I don't want to do this anymore. How do you insert one, not just 100, but what about 1,000 or 1,000,000? Eric might ask you to insert 4 billion numbers into a list. That's going to upset you a lot. So one quick way of doing it is doing this. You can use an iterator or a loop. So a loop basically means you can do the instruction multiple times. So we have 2 types of loops. Actually 3 types. We have a while, we have a do while, and we have a for. Most often you're going to use a for loop. What's the difference between the 3? Really no major difference. While means you don't know when it ends. Do while means you don't know when it ends, but you know it's going to start. you know you have to go through the loop at least once. And then a for loop means you know when it's going to end. So I'll show you one example. While index is less than sum, you're trying to calculate the sum, and you want to keep calculating until it is greater than the index. But for for loop, a for loop, you can do index in range 10. That means you know that index, that this loop will stop once it reaches 9. Because remember, it's range. Remember, we're starting from 0. So if you call this function range 10, it's going to go from 0 to 9. If you don't want to start from 0, you want to start at 1, you have to do this. 1 through 10. Now, if you actually want to do 1 to 10, you have to increment this. 11, right? Now in Perl actually does this. Index plus plus. Open and curly. So you initialize index to 0. As long as index is less than 10, you keep incrementing the index. This is equivalent to what I just put here. So Perl actually follows the same, in any programming language like C, C++, and Java, it does this. Python made it a lot more simpler and just put it in here. Just one simple line. Index in range 10. So let's actually initialize our list value now. So let's say we have an A. We set it up as a list. And we need to insert, let's say, 1,000 values for, no parentheses, index in range. So I want to insert 1 to 4,923. So how do you do it? How do I do it?
1, 4,924.
Perfect. 4,924. Initial value, starting point, and the end point, where it's going to end. So in Perl, the equivalent is going to be index is set to 1, semicolon. Index is less than 4,924, semicolon, index plus plus. Okay. Now here's where Perl and Python really hate each other. Okay. So suppose I have my for. Let's assume I already initialized this. So in Perl, so Perl has this block. Inside your block of your for loop, you have to put curly braces to initialize where your block is. And you can do weird stuff like you can put your code in here. So A plus B, C plus 1, and then all the way here in Perl, A plus plus, something like that. Oh, by the way, in Perl, you have to end the statement. You have to put a semicolon. In Python, you do not. So, okay, so you can actually do this: A plus B, C plus 1, and then all the way here, A plus plus, and it's going to work. Perl will compile, will work, as long as they're in between the curly braces. Now in Python, it's more severe, and I'll show you why. Whenever you see a statement that ends with a colon, in Python, the statements that ends with a colon are usually for loops, while loops, classes, functions. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Alright, so once you end a statement with a colon, you gotta indent. You might be tempted to use the tab, but in function-wise, it has to be 4 spaces. So to indent, you gotta type in the spacebar 4 times, and that's how you indent. And then you can do your code. A plus B, C plus 1, etc. Okay, what happens if I accidentally 1, 2, 3? I miss the space. I only hit the space bar 3 times, and I do A plus 1. Python will actually give you an error saying that an error in an indent. You get an error, and the only way to fix it is actually add a space and then do this. So you have to keep it indent. And if you end your block, so to end it, you have to just get out. So to end your for loop block, you just don't use spaces and just continue on with your code. Okay, so now you can. So to set your list to 1 to 4,924, 23. A very simple way is doing this. A dot append index. Okay. So what this thing does is this is a function, append, and this append belongs to the list. So if you initialize A as a list, it can use the append function. And what append does is it's going to get the number from the index and put it into the list. Index, so it's going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So it's just going to keep iterating. So let's say that index is equal to 1 because it gets the 1 from the range function. Gets 1, index is 1, and it's going to append 1 into the list. Now, once you're done with executing all your instructions in the block, you're going to increment the index. Index becomes 2, and it's going to append 2 into the list. 3, 4, 5, etc., all the way until 4,923. So range is from the starting point to n minus 1. Right? Just keep that in mind. It's never going to insert the actual number here, 4,924. It's going to only append n minus 1, 4,923. All right. So let's see. This is actually pretty straightforward. I mean, if you any programming language, you actually have to initialize an actual length in your list and then add the numbers. In Python, it doesn't care. The length is unlimited, basically. Let's see. So let's see. So for a practical, so let's see. Now you just been exposed to a function. What a function is it's basically a set of instructions that are just repeated. Suppose I want to open up okay, so here, I'm going to write some pseudo, so suppose I want to open up a file. I want to do something to the file, do something. And then I want to open another file. Do something. And then I'll open another file. Now if you're Eric, you would copy, paste, copy, paste. And that's pretty bad. So the general rule is if you're going to do something more than once, make a function out of it.